So what's going on, guys? This is Jaydee from the Wrestlebread podcast, and this is a episode of A Slice from Jaydee. I haven't done these in a bit of a while, but I figured with a lot of things that has been going on, to kind of start this all over again. So this week, I'm going to be giving my opinion on women's wrestling. First of all, I know Star Wars Day was just passed. I'm recording this on Revenge of the Sith, so I am rocking one of the best Star Wars movies, in my opinion. Don't come at me in the comments. Um, but I wanted to talk about the state of women's wrestling, which I feel as though is pretty bad right now. Not as bad as the 1 minute matches, the evening gowns, and stuff like that we had back in the day, but as far as the amount of attention and care that the women's division used to receive, and now is completely different. And it's not just, AEW or WWE. It's actually both companies that I have this issue with. There is so much attention put towards the men's division, tag team division, stuff like that, that it always feels like the women's division kind of gets put on a back burner. And there are times where both companies, try to, put women in like the forefront, but it always feels like they're being set up for failure, as we have saw very recently with AEW Dynamite with Deanna Purrazzo and Martinez. So I'm gonna go through each division. I know with WWE it's Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. I'm gonna count NXT separately, of course, from Raw and SmackDown. But with NXT, so in my opinion, the best women's division was actually with the Black and Gold NXT. They were pretty much treated as equals. They were given time and promotion. I felt as though, as far as the treatment of women with women's wrestling, the Black and Gold NXT was like pretty much up there. And there may be other promotions where the women's division has been treated well. I haven't watched Impact in a very long time. I haven't watched NWA in a very long time. I don't watch New Japan. So if those promotions have a better women's division than WWE and AEW, then, I'm happy for that. But as far as the two biggest wrestling companies over here in the States, the women's division kind of always get put in the back burner. And the Black and Gold NXT was like pretty much perfect as far as the women's division. It was a lot of attention put towards it, a lot of promotion and things like that. Of course, the storyline with Sasha Banks and Bayley, who can ever forget, their matches as well, especially the Iron Women's match when they main evented and stuff like that. And then even a little bit when Sasha, Bayley, Charlotte, and Becky kind of came over to the main roster, there was the period of time where they were like, it was pretty much like riding the success of what they had done in NXT as well. But however, even though you can't really build the women's division on just those four, because there's injuries, as we see with Bayley, people stepping away like Sasha to do Star Wars and stuff like that, people just taking time out, like or even like Ronda Rousey, who went off and had a baby, and just like Becky Lynch, who went off and had a baby as well. And so you have to like bring up that next group of women. And with NXT 2.0, now the big thing that came about was the interview with Ember Moon, where she had talked about how there was a meeting that she had where they were told to dress more sexy and stuff like that. And Ember Moon really didn't want to, well, she said, she didn't want to spend 2 hours, wanted to be told that she has to dress sexy like Mandy Rose. A lot of people took it out of context, thought she was coming at Mandy Rose, which she wasn't. I actually get what she's saying, and it was something that I said in I believe it was a previous podcast episode, or it could have been with Slice of Jaydee, where I felt as though that the women's division NXT 2.0 is kind of not really taking steps back, but whereas though it's more about the looks again versus the wrestling. A lot of people there are a lot of fans of Nikita Lyons versus people who talk about, at the time, Dakota Kai, or with Saray and things like that. Women who are like, pure wrestlers. And it feels like with the NXT women's division, it's all about the looks and the character work and stuff like that, and not too much on the storyline and what goes on in the ring. But then again, WWE isn't really about wrestling like that. They are an entertainment company. Like they say on their website, they're an entertainment company. They are about storylines and characters. But what we have seen that it can work where you include the wrestling as well, and you can develop storylines and character stuff like that, and you can still present really good wrestling. I mean, that was one of the big things about the Attitude Era. It was about storylines and characters, but there were also a lot of great wrestling matches as well, a lot of memorable moments. So with NXT 2.0, and I watched the Spring Break-In episode. I don't really watch a lot of too much of NXT 2.0, but I saw with the Spring Breaking episode that they had Nikita Lyons, of course, and Cora Jade, which they are really putting it feels like they're trying to really push her as their top star. But of course there was a lot of vignettes and stuff like that, and then of course the with Wendy Chu and Toxic Attraction and everything, that in the bikinis, stuff like that. My thing is, and I had talked about this point outside of Wrestlebread, is that you see Mandy Rose with the bikini, with the photo shoot that she had when she first won the title, and she was in a bikini, and she was like, of course, showing the buttocks and stuff like that. And I was making a point, like, you wouldn't see, for example, Becky Lynch or Bayley or Sasha Banks really doing something like that. You wouldn't see them do vignettes like that where they're like posing sexy and stuff like that. Because they're all about wrestling. You don't really see Bianca Belair doing something like that, or even really Rhea Ripley, because it's more wrestling focused when it comes to them. And so with all these vignettes, and when also another thing that I saw in NXT 2.0 was that I know her name, Kaden Chance, and I forgot her tag team partner name. It escapes me. And they were with two other women as well, and they were all dressing in like really. It was like they were going for a pageant or something like that. It wasn't like really elegant evening gowns, but it's like really. It was like evening gowns. They were pretty much wearing like dresses, like they were all at a party or something like that. And I was like, it was really weird, because it feels like they're especially based off of what Ember Moon has said, it feels like there's like a slight dress code for them backstage. Whereas though, the guys, they can, pretty much rock whatever it is they want to rock. And, like the saying says, sex sells. Like I said, there's a lot of people who know who Nikita Lyons is, and I'm sure they can't really name, all the other women that are in the division as well. But that's how it is, and that's what it is now in NXT 2.0. For the main roster, they have this slight similar situation as with the men's division, where all of the attention is put on a certain feud, to where as though everyone else kind of feels like, forgettable. We saw that kind of with WrestleMania, where it was Ronda Rousey and Charlotte. The attention was really put onto their feud and things like that, which I get because of Ronda Rousey and stuff like that. But wrestling wise, Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch kind of like stole the show. And they were the winner. They're the only two women who have won a WrestleMania main event, but they felt like they was kind of put in the back burner. And now, even now, there's not a lot of women who are like credible number one contenders. So now we have Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair feuding again. And then we have Bianca Belair kind of going back and forth with Sonya Deville. And then with the tag team women's division, it's pretty much like a bunch of women who are thrown together. And once again, like now that Sasha Banks have the women's tag team titles again, it feels like she's really trying to push for them to be important again, like the last time when Sasha and Bayley had the titles. But they WWE really have a tendency of breaking tag team bringing up tag teams a lot, and then throwing together individual wrestlers into a tag team to kind of like, will you guys wrestle together for just to give them a number one contender, which doesn't really work. So WWE roster, they have the talent. It's just that they're not as presented. They're putting all their eggs into like one basket, like with the men's division, and that's pretty much like an issue with WWE as a whole. And it's been like that for like a couple of years, whereas though they put all their attention on like a few people who are at the top of the line, and then the rest of their roster all feels like mid card. And I made this point plenty of times. When it came to that men's roster, there were only 3 surprises that were not on the roster. And a lot of people complained that it felt boring because everyone was mid card, which it really shouldn't. You had AJ Styles on there, stuff like that. People who, any other time or any other company, they would be like number one contender. It would feel like a high profile match. But they don't really get as much attention as they normally do. With the women's division AEW, I feel as though, as far as, now, like I said, I can't count NXT really because it's a developmental. I feel as though with the AEW women's division, like they have potential. It's just that they need time. And my issue with AEW, with particularly with Tony Khan, because he's the one who's booking, is that it feels like he like does things just to shut people up. So everybody's been complaining about the women's division, how they're not pretty presented and stuff like that. And what happened at this past Wednesday at AEW Dynamite, we had 2 segments that closed AEW Dynamite. And it was like the most boring parts of the show. We had the promo between Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb, which really, the promo felt a little too long, and it really felt very WWE, where there's like back and forth, and it felt like it was very like rehearsed. It didn't really feel like a natural conversation like you would have when we have promos between Eddie Kingston and CM Punk, for example, or a promo from MJF, or even the backstage promos where that features Ricky Starks and Keith Lee and stuff like that. Like, it really felt rehearsed. It felt like, they're on a stage play in high school. It went on too long, and it really didn't get me like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see this. And then we had the main event of Deonna Purrazzo versus Mercedes Martinez for the Ring of Honor title. And one of the things that I really do not like that AEW does is that they present people but don't really tell the audience who they are and why we should care. Like they always go on this assumption that we should know who this person is already. I know who Deonna Purrazzo is, but as we saw with AEW Dynamite, the crowd really didn't know or care about it. There should have been like a video package, something like that. When they first announced it, they should have, had Tony Khan bring her out, have her cut a promo and something like that. They could easily did a vignette just like they did with the Blackpool Combat Club. Really put her over, make us care. And so when we see her, we was like, okay, I've seen her before. She's very interesting, yada yada yada. And it's not like this. While she does belong to Impact, she was champion for Ring of Honor, which is the company that is now owned by Tony Khan. At least give the respect of the person who is currently your champion to be presented well in front of the audience. And then even with Mercedes Martinez, she didn't really wrestle that many times with AEW. She was with AEW, then she left to go back to WWE, and then she came back to AEW, and they was treating it like she was there for the first time again. They haven't really presented her that well either, to where as though I really should care. Like, the people who really benefit from like the way that they have been doing the booking is Jade Cargill and Britt Baker. Outside of those two, it kind of feels lackluster. Thunder Rosa is, very popular and stuff like that. And it's mainly with, she gets cheered and stuff like that. But once she starts like cutting on a promo or, even with wrestling matches, it kind of feels a bit lackluster. And for AEW, the issue is that they need time. The women's division has potential, but unfortunately, they have a lot of young, inexperienced wrestlers. And when I say inexperienced, it's more like an experience of working in front of a camera, in front of a large audience, having to do character work and stuff like that. Now, Jade Cargill has been a lot better than when she first started. She's been getting trained by Bryan Danielson, which we can see she's been doing she's been like so much improvement in the ring and, on the mic as well. And it just feels like, the women's division has kind of been like thrown out there, kind of like figure it out yourself instead of, kind of and I'm hoping that William Regal kind of like brings this to the attention of Tony Khan to kind of really present like a promo class or something like that. Like there's no veterans in the women's division to really help out. Like they have Serena Deeb, who is a veteran, but they really they need a lot of help. They have someone like Julia Hart, who is only 19, um, who, you can see that she has potential. Like definitely give her a couple of years. I mean, people are still wrestling in their 30s and whatnot. So yeah, you give her a couple of years and she can probably really be really good in the ring. However, she needs help as far as, character and promo and, really practicing in the ring. And I'm hoping that they'll bring together like pretty much like a training class for the women. I mean, they only have to be on TV once or possibly twice a week. Just take out a day and invite some of the women to train and learn how to cut promos and stuff like that. And, to help out that division. Because I feel as though in like maybe 3-4 years that women's division will be solid. It's just that they need to be solid now because they're on network TV. And they are in competition with a company who has an established women's division. Talent wise, WWE has the most talented women's division. It's just that not all the women are presented 100%. Like the company doesn't back all the women 100%. They will back, certain women. They will get the attention, stuff like that, but it's not 100%. AEW, they have the most potential, um, but they are not experienced enough to really handle the pressure of being, the face of AEW. So fingers crossed that hopefully, this will improve. And like I said, WWE just needs to really the biggest thing that pisses me off with WWE is that they have the talent. They don't use it to their advantage. Um and with AEW, there's potential there, but they're not like they're not really giving them not really a chance because they'll we even had Britt Baker close a Dynamite at like a few weeks ago, and even that match was like lackluster. And it's like it's not giving them an opportunity, it's that they need help. They need help as far as like in the ring and promo and stuff like that, and being booked better as well. Like treat them like you are treating CM Punk and Bryan Danielson. Like really like give them not really the opportunity, but really give them the attention, I guess I should say. The vignettes and stuff like that. Like one of the things I really liked that AEW did when they first started was when they were doing the whole road to Double or Nothing, their first pay-per-view. They was putting out weekly videos on YouTube to get us to get to know a lot of the wrestlers. I feel as though they should really do that with the women's division. Put out vignettes and stuff like that. Put it on Rampage or Dynamite of who these women are, why should we care about them and stuff like that. And give the women's division mentors. You have William Regal, someone who was a big instrument in NXT, who have seen, how that women's division was handled, how they became really good, and to use his knowledge, really. But yeah, I'm hoping that the women's division gets better. It has come a very far along from, the 3-minute matches and, the butterfly title and, you know, being the pretty one that skips down the aisle and stuff like that, to where as though, they are main eventing WrestleManias, they're main eventing shows, they're the biggest feuds that people talk about when it comes to pay-per-views or premium live events. But, it's just, I don't know, it just feels like it feels like we're kind of taking a few steps back of not having them get the attention that they need from the company that they are trying to represent. But let me know your opinion. Let me know if you agree with me. Do you disagree with me? Who do you feel has the best women's division as well? Do you miss do you miss the black and gold NXT that had the best women's division? Because I do. Now, if you want to follow me, you can definitely follow me along on any of the socials as well. I put out new podcast episodes every Tuesday, wherever you listen to podcasts as well. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. I'll be putting out videos a little bit more often than what I'm doing. And leave your comment below of how you feel about the women's division of today. And until next time, guys, peace.